Oh, let's try that one again. Good afternoon. Can somebody identify for me what the bright object in the sky is today that's kind of really bright and was kind of blinding you? Isn't it a wonderful afternoon? And it's good to be together. My name is Tom Fisher, and I'm a member of this community of faith here at Grace. And I understand this is kind of a new thing for Hawkinson Foundation to meet here. So I think it would be well and good for the members of this community who are upstairs at the moment, quite a few are downstairs preparing our repast afterwards. But if you're a member of the Grace community, stand up and come on, stand up y'all. And on 3, we're going to say welcome. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. There you go. So on behalf of not only this community of faith, but especially the committee members of the Hawkinson Foundation, and on behalf of our honored guests, I want to say a big thank you to each one of you for your presence this afternoon. It's a really good and important thing that we're gathered to do this afternoon, to gather in support of our honorary award winner, Sister Shar, and all of our scholarship winners. So we trust you'll be inspired by the stories that you're about to hear about the critical work of peacemaking and justice creating. So I'm assuming quite a few of you know a fair amount about the Hawkinson Foundation, but a thumbnail review would be a good thing. A good reminder of who we are and what deep passions and values we embrace. The foundation was created in 1988 and operated as an independent charitable organization for 29 years. And then 2 years ago, a decision was made to transfer the money and the mission of the foundation here to Grace Church, where it now functions as a dedicated fund of this congregation. So now it's audience participation time. This is a no-brainer. The fund was created to honor Pastor Vince Hawkinson. Very good, Pastor Vince Hawkinson. Pastor here for 31 years. And I want you to think for a moment about those years, from 1955 until 1985. Think about, in that period of time, what was going on in our country and why that enabled Vince to become a legend in his own time as a preacher, as a prophet, and what we like to call an impassioned troublemaker for the cause of peace. Can I get an amen to that? He was a impassioned troublemaker for the cause of peace. And so the mission of this organization isn't just to honor Vince, but to perpetuate his spirit in 2 ways. One is why we're here, to present scholarships and non-monetary honorary awards to individuals who are committed to the cause of peace and justice. And secondly, that we want to publicize those stories of those of you receiving the scholarships and honorary awards. Why? Because that's how we inspire others. That's how we get others engaged in this crucial work. Today, Sister Shar Madigan will become the 50th person to receive a Hawkinson Honorary Award. I think that's a banner day. What do we do about that? You're our golden girl. You're our golden girl, number 50. We're delighted. And we're presenting scholarships to 8 student scholars today. Since our beginning in 1988, the Hawkinson has distributed over $250,000 to 146 students. You mean you aren't going to applaud at that? Over $250,000 to 146 students. That's amazing work for a small organizations such as we are. We issue an annual newsletter which describes how the honorary award and scholarship winners have pursued and will continue to pursue peace and justice. Their stories and these newsletters can be found online at the Hawkinson Foundation. If you look at the bottom of your program, you see the website, and we encourage you to go and review and just celebrate these remarkable people. Okay, so last year, 2018, we awarded 4 scholarships, but since no one was selected for an honorary award, and since there was no award event, today, in baseball terms, we have a doubleheader. We have a doubleheader. We're going to celebrate 2 years in one to present scholarship, 4 scholarship recipients from last year, as well as 4 more from this year. And before we get to those presentations, I'd like to pause to recognize some of the people who are gathered today. If you have previously received an honorary award or a scholarship from the Hawkinson Foundation, don't be shy. Please stand up so we can recognize and honor you. Previous scholarships. Thank you for your witness. Thank you for coming today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we have 1 or more members of the Vince Hawkinson's family, if they are here today. Anyone from Vince's family, would you stand so we can, there we are. 3 guys similar in stature to Vince, if you will. Finally, if you are currently involved, or if you have ever been involved in the past, on the committees that do the work of the Hawkinson Foundation, the backroom work, the selection of the honorary award and the scholarship selection committee, or in any other role on the Hawkinson Foundation, would you please stand up so we can thank you? We are grateful, we are grateful. It's time for our scholarship presentations now by Stan Jacobson. And speaking of gratitude, would you join me in thanking Stan, who from the get-go was and continues to be a significant driving force of this organization. Stan.
Thank you very much, Tom. I coordinate the Scholarship Selection Committee, and I'd like to begin by explaining what we look for in a successful candidate for one of these scholarships. Candidates, we make them work quite hard. They have to complete an application form, an essay, and get a letter of reference to write on their behalf. And after that, we ask a few of them to come in for interviews. And this is what we look for in the interview: accomplishments related to peace and justice activities, leadership and courage in confronting injustice, the maturity of the candidate with a worldview that puts their interests in a broader context. Are they realistic and hopeful about what to expect, how one person can change the world? Is the candidate articulate in communicating their vision of a changed world to others? And finally, we look for role models who will inspire others. We hope our limited scholarship dollars will have the greatest possible impact. That's a lot to expect, but we're extremely proud of the people who have been selected. In our scholarship selection committee, we often feel humbled by the amazing things that these young people have accomplished. As Tom explained earlier, this year we are recognizing 4 students who received scholarships last year in 2018, and 2 of these students are unable to be with us today. Isabel Arriagada is in Santiago, Chile. She's doing their PhD research relating to prisoner mistreatment in Chilean prisons. I'd like to read from the award plaque for her. The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Isabel's efforts to address human rights violations, torture, and other prisoner mistreatment throughout the Americas, particularly in Chile. I'll let her know when you applaud. Najaha Musi is in Blacksburg, Virginia, in her third year of medical school. Her family immigrated to Minnesota from Ethiopia when she was 7 years old. She graduated from Harding High School in St. Paul and St. Olaf College. The Hawkinson Award especially recognizes Najaha's efforts to address healthcare disparities for marginalized communities and to advocate for accessible, affordable healthcare in Minnesota, Ethiopia, and around the world. The next two students were awarded scholarships last year, but we're delighted to be able to present them with these certificates this year. Rachel, would you like to come forward? Thank you. Rachel Riley is the Director of Business Development for Spire Credit Union, which has almost 20 branches throughout the state. Rachel is married, has 2 children, and in recent years she has spent her vacation time going to Thailand, Tanzania, and yesterday she just got back from the Philippines, not as a tourist, and not for reasons which you might expect. The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Rachel's work to save lives by combating the evil of sex trafficking in Africa, Asia, and Minnesota. Congratulations.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody who donates and contributes their time to this foundation. I am a banker by trade, and I didn't go to school when I should have. My dad's here today to attest to that. It took until my 33rd birthday to finally earn my degree, and the last the last semester of school, I had a choice that I could either continue doing the volunteer missions that I've been doing, or I could pay for my last semester of school, and this scholarship allowed me to do both this year, which is really amazing. So I believe that girls and women should not be for sale, that we need to teach our boys how to treat women and how to value women. And I did just get back yesterday. I'm a little bit jet lagged, but so bear with me here. I just got back from the Philippines. I was there for 4 weeks. The trips are generally 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much time I can get away from work. I'm pretty blessed to have really great bosses that allow me to do that. And what I was doing this last time in the Philippines was working on the what next phase for girls who have been in trafficking. So in combination with my professional skills working with credit unions and cooperatives around the world, I partnered with some co-ops there to start some business resource centers and a new foundation myself where women can get micro grants to start their own business, get professional business planning skills, and constant coaching from industry experts in whatever industry they choose, and they can support their children going forward so they don't end up in this perpetual cycle. So again, I just want to thank you because I just had another amazing experience. I'm going to continue doing this until the problem is gone. It's a great way to see the world, and again, talk to your boys. Thank you.
Every year, the Scholarship Selection Committee identifies one person to receive the top scholarship, which in recent years has been $5,000, and this person is recognized as the Jacobson Scholar. Pulang Moshele is the Jacobson Scholar for 2018. She was born in Lesotho, South Africa, a country devastated by AIDS, HIV. She is now studying public health here at the university. Her father died while working in a South African mine, so her current focus is on industrial hygiene. The Hawkinson Fund is especially recognizes Pulang's efforts to help HIV/AIDS orphans in Lesotho, to provide compassionate care to Minnesotans with AIDS, HIV, and her plans to improve working conditions in South African laborers through industrial hygiene. Congratulations.
You can read more about my application in the book, so what I prepared is not really related to what I do, but it's just a little glimpse of who I am and how I got here. So when I was born, I was given the name Pulang, which translates into "it is raining." After having 3 boys, my mother's days of unblocked, she says, were over, and her days of dryness, she finally had a girlfriend for life. Rain in my culture is a sign of new beginning, a sign of hope, and a sign of prosperity. So naming in Lesotho is both a cultural and a linguistic phenomenon. The meaning attached to names plays a significant role in the definition of personhood, because it is believed that a name serves as an identity and determines the type of person you will be. Therefore, intentionally and unintentionally, I wanted to live up to this whole thing of being rain to the people around me. So growing up, one of the things I was aware of was the differences among us as a nation, and one topic I became attached to was HIV. I became involved in projects that helped alleviate the burden of HIV in my people. I consciously chose to focus on workplace-related illnesses because I was personally affected by such cases from my family members. I've seen people go to work, but I didn't expect them to come back dead. In the midst of this, I've run across situations where my will and passion felt too big for me to carry, and at one moment, I broke down to my mother. Well, I mention my mother a lot, by the way. She loves using analogies, so per usual, she taught me a lesson that has carried me in times when I feel unable to. She used my name, of course. She said, for rain to fall, there's some sort of a water cycle, and in this cycle, water evaporates from the ocean in the form of water vapor. This is very sciencey. And eventually returns to land and sea in the form of precipitation. She said it's not an endless pouring. There are days of dryness. There are days of condensation, and there should be transformation. She told me, you cannot do it by yourself. You cannot do everything by yourself. Some days you'll have to wait for your cycle to be complete. So I'm standing here in front of you with nothing but heartfelt gratitude, because you have been my source of rain as donors and as people who have contributed to this scholarship. I've been blessed with this incredible scholarship that has helped to pay for my tuition in the last year. I'm a semester and a half away from graduating, and I've done well. I've served in 2 committees at the graduate school, and I've been able to maintain a 4.0 GPA. Now, more than ever, in the US, it is a time for each one of us to complete other people's rains so that they can outpour their capabilities. In the days to come, I'll go back to my beautiful country that a lot of people don't know about, and I will, against all odds, continue to work against everything that stands with HIV. And I know that with each outpouring that I'll have, that the Hawkinson Scholarship will also be there. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Mary and I have you a song. And just a little backstory on this. All the major religions have a teaching about loving self, and out of that, reservoir than loving neighbor. And the song I'd like to teach you is from the Christian tradition, and it comes from a jazz musician from New York City by the name of Eddie Bodmer. And musicians call, it's a very easy song, musicians call this an AABA song. So the first, the second, and the fourth line are the same. So once you've learned those words, you've got 3/4 of the song learned. So the first and second and fourth line go like this. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself.
Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself.
Second line.
Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself.
Fourth line.
Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself.
You guys are amazing. Okay, the third line goes like this. She doesn't care about the color of your skin or what religion you've been in.
She doesn't care about the
Color of your skin or what religion you've been in. One more time. She doesn't care about the color of your skin or what religion you've been in. Very good. Now, I'm going to sing it for you once. I'm going to get some moving room here. Okay. So when Eddie put a tune to those words, here's how it comes out sounding. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. She doesn't care about the color of your skin or what religion you've been in. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. Okay, sing it with me. I'll sing loud. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. Sing it again. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. She doesn't care about the color of your skin or what religion you've been in. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. We're going to do one more time. You've got to be on your feet and sing it like you're a Vince kind of guy. You really believe this stuff. On your feet. Everybody. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. He doesn't care about the color. He doesn't care about the color of the skin or what religion you've been in. Help me, Jesus, to love my neighbor as myself. Thank you very much.
Next, we have the 4 students who are receiving the 2019 scholarships. The 2019 Jacobson Scholar is Hannah Wadajo, who is a PhD student at the University of Minnesota. Hannah was nominated for this scholarship by Emily Springer, who met her in Ethiopia, but Emily was the 2012 Jacobson Scholar from the Hawkinson Fund and was then doing research in Ethiopia. And she was a teacher there at the school, Diridali University. So Ethiopia is now the second largest, in terms of population, second largest country in Africa, but nearly 2.5 million students of school age, potential students, are not able to go to school in Ethiopia because they don't have the $25 that it takes in order to have the basic necessities to go to school. Hannah, realizing this, created a crowdsourced initiative called Help a Child Go to School to support needy students in Dir Dao, Ethiopia. And last year, it supported 300 students in Ethiopia. This year, Hannah asked for her scholarship to come early so that she could use half of it to continue that program and has expanded the number, I believe, even further. Our award plaque reads, "The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Hannah's efforts to improve school success for Ethiopian children." Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am honored and pleased to be a Jacobson Scholar. I would like to extend my gratitude to Hawkinson Scholarship organizers and supporters. I would like to say a few words about my background and my project. I was from economically disadvantaged family in Ethiopia, so I get support from different people from different walks of life. When I was in high school, I was in AGSP, Ambassador Girls Scholarship Program, which was part of Bush Foundation, but the program didn't work when I joined higher education. So it was really hard for me to unleash my potential as a law student. And when I was third year in law school, I met an American who was working in one of the international organizations in Ethiopia. She organized support for me and other 25 students. So at the night when she organized this program, she made us to make a promise to pay it forward for others. That thing still resonates with me. Pay it forward, not pay it back to the person who helps you. So moving fast forward, in 2013, I graduated from law school, and by the time I got full scholarship to continue my master's program in human rights. By the time I was not economically strong because I was full-time master's student, but I didn't want to wait till I finished my master's program. So I asked myself, what do I have? I realized that I had a good social capital. I was working in one of the well-known law firms in Ethiopia. I was also a part-time co-host in one of the national radio stations that raise awareness on legal issues. So I want to use this social resource, and with the help of my beloved husband, he was my fiancé by the time, yes. In 2013, we organized Help a Child Go to School campaign. So by the time we supported 14 students, and now we are supporting almost 300 students who are from economically disadvantaged families and can now go to school in Dwedawa. That's where my husband and I were born and raised. So after I started my PhD program at the University of Minnesota, I always afraid not to get carried away with school life. You know, when you are in graduate school, you think like you can do things after your graduation, as if life waits for you. So this scholarship will really help me not only financially, but also I get a moral boost to continue my work. So one takeaway from my experience is that you don't need to wait to make a difference. So thank you so much again for this award.
Asma Adam is in her second year of medical school here at the university. Her second year when we were interviewing her last year. Her parents came from Somalia. She attended Concordia University in St. Paul, where she organized a Muslim student association, and currently she is using her perspective as a Somali American Muslim woman to advocate for changes in our healthcare delivery system. The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Ozma's unique perspective to advocate for change and her practical approaches to provide compassionate health care to underserved communities in Minnesota and around the world. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Just bear with me a little bit. I'm recovering from a cold, but I'm happy to be here. So I grew up in Fridley, Minnesota, and went to school there for preschool, middle school, and high school. I went to an Islamic private school there. And then after that, I went to Concordia University, which is a Lutheran institution for my undergrad. And while I was at Concordia is kind of where my spark for equity and justice kind of came about during my undergrad years, just kind of realizing for me I was interested in healthcare, and by doing some internships I realized that health equity in our country is not really there. There are some of us that are doing better than others, and just considering the resources that we have in this nation, I just didn't feel right knowing that a lot of our population was struggling. And so that's kind of where my interest in healthcare started, and I'm a current third-year medical student now at the University of Minnesota. The first 2 years are mainly book work, so kind of learning the sciences, but now I'm more in the clinical medicine side, learning from my physician teachers and from my patients and their stories, and really learning how to take care of them. And I'm participating in a unique program that started at the U about 2 years ago, where 6 of us are selected to do our entire third year at Hennepin County Medical Center, which is our safety net hospital here in downtown Minneapolis, and really serving our most vulnerable population. A lot of concerns with immigration status, poverty, mental health, and realizing that in medicine, a lot of people focus on those issues once they've mastered the medicine and the sciences, and that's kind of an afterthought. But really learning both at the same time, where I'm developing my clinical skills with the idea of how do I best serve my patients in this population that might not have access to what we usually prescribe. How do we modify our treatment models and allow them to do what is convenient but also effective in managing their health care? And that's kind of where I'm at in my education for third year, and as well as fourth year of medical school, and I look forward to staying in the Twin Cities if they'll have me, and continuing to be a socially conscious physician here in the Twin Cities. And I really thank you all for your support and for your belief and for your investment in me, and I'll bring it forward, now more so with my mentorship and in the future with financial support, because I really believe in mentorship, and I know that I would not be standing here without people who believed in me. Thank you all.
Ingrid Kubisa is a member of the Grace Church here and has been attending here since her family moved to Minnesota from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. She's now a junior at Gustavus Adolphus College. Her father created an organization called Let Africa Live about 20 years ago to help children suffering from the civil war in the DRC to get reintegrated into civil society. After high school, Ingrid worked at the LAV, and she is committed to returning to the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, to advocate for social justice. I'd like to read the plaque for her. It says, the Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Ingrid's commitment to improving the lives of child victims of war in the Democratic Republic of the Congo by addressing the underlying causes of war, ignorance, and poverty. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Hawkinson Foundation for giving me a chance to be one of the 2019 scholarship recipients. This scholarship will not help me pay my education, but will help me pursue what I'm passionate about, social justice. When I left my country and came to the United States in 2016, I thought I left behind what I'm passionate about, social justice. But this scholarship will help me work harder on it. I know this scholarship will not only help me pay my tuition, but will also help me gain confidence and competence to help others. After graduation, I am planning to use my international relations and communication studies skills to work with international companies and organizations. I want to thank my family for their ongoing support, Steele Solberg for writing my letter of recommendation, the Grace University Lutheran Church, Gustavus Adolphus, and everyone who is contributing and continue to have the Hawkinson Foundation to move forward. One of my favorite African proverbs says, one hand cannot beat the drum because it always needs help from the other hands. And the Hawkinson Foundation is being the other hand that help us moving forward and accomplish social justice work. Thank you.
E. Ornelas is a PhD candidate in feminist studies here at the U. E. held leadership positions at the university's Gender and Sexuality Center for Queer and Trans Life. E. has also led efforts to connect incarcerated transgender people, or largely people of color, with support outside of prison. The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes E.'s strong personal commitment to pursue restorative justice in response to gender-based violence and to improve public understanding of gender-based classifications on LGBTQN+ communities. Congratulations.
Thank you all, and good afternoon. I'm going to be brief because I'm a little bit nervous, but I want to thank you all, and I want to thank the Hawkinson Peace and Justice Scholarship Committee, especially to Stan for being so supportive and communicative throughout this process. And I'm just like blown away right now. I'm really honored and humbled to be amongst all these other amazing recipients. My work has been, both inside and outside of academia, my work has been focusing on how punishment through policing and prisons really negatively impacts queer and trans people, specifically people of color. And really I focused on working towards restorative justice rather than sort of punitive models of justice. I think that these are populations and concerns that are often overlooked and actively dismissed, again, both inside and outside of academia. And so I think receiving this award feels especially impactful. It just feels really rewarding and very, it just feels like this is actually taken seriously. So I greatly appreciate the support of the scholarship so that I can continue this work in the future. Hopefully, I believe, in the spirit of the impassioned troublemaking that we heard about earlier. Thank you all.
I'd like to conclude my comments by explaining that when we ended the foundation and became a dedicated fund here at Grace Church, we made the change to revert to our original approach from 30 years ago, which was to rely upon volunteer labor. We're doing this to keep our expenses as low as possible, and we also plan each year to pay out nearly all of our income from the prior year as scholarships for the next year. And that is how we have paid for the scholarships that we have awarded today and for last year. In other words, since becoming a fund of Grace Church, we have had sufficient money to provide the scholarships to the people that have been awarded them today. If you like how we're using your contributions to make these scholarships available, please do one of two things. Give us money so that we can continue awarding these scholarships. Or you can donate your time by volunteering to help us operate the Hawkinson Fund. We need lots of volunteers, and we'll spend your money wisely on the next generation of leaders. Thank you.
It has been, I think I can safely speak for all of us, just a thrill to hear each of you speak. My goodness, I am just amazed and awed. I also know that each one of you stands on the shoulders of someone else. And if you have family, friends, whoever who have been of support to you, I invite you all to stand at this point so we can honor those on whose shoulders you stand. Please stand if you have been. In your pew is a red book, and I invite you to open it up to the hymn section toward the back and turn to 721. 721. And if you look near the bottom, you'll see a name that is no stranger to peace and justice. Desmond Tutu, arguably one of the most memorable and important troublemakers for peace in the last century. This hymn is one of his prayers or writings set to music by John Bell of the Iona community of Scotland, which is an ecumenical community of social peace, social justice and peace. I'm going to invite Pastor Mary to play this, and we'll sing it once through. I'll sing kind of loud through the microphone here so you can hear the tune, but sing along with me, especially as you know it, and then we're going to sing it again. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu's Goodness is Stronger Than Evil. Pastor Mary? And how as we gathered to march, we chanted, as the chanting still happens, but there was some memorable stuff of almost a call and a response. And as I hear Tutu's words, I can envision gathering in South Africa where one side or one crowd is calling out, goodness is stronger than evil, and across the way comes the response, love is stronger than hate. And so I envision us, this will be side one, goodness is stronger than evil. You will be side two, love is stronger than hate. And we aren't disagreeing. We're emphasizing different aspects of this social justice fight that we're engaged in. The same with the second line. Over here, you will say, light, sing. Light is stronger than darkness. The other side, life is stronger than death. And then we sing together. Okay, Pastor Mary, you got it? The first phrase of each line here, the second phrase over here. Let's sing. Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Love is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death. Everyone, victory is ours. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Thank you for lending your voice, your passion, your enthusiasm for this important work. I now welcome Mary Lou Ott, who received the 2005 Hawkinson Honorary Award. And Mary Lou is coming forward to introduce our 2019 Honorary Award winner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I need to start by making it very clear that I did not win that award on my own. My husband and I won that award together, God bless him. So I need to make that very clear. You know, the words that I want to say are not, I don't want them to be my words, I didn't. So I thought, what will I do? So I thought, I'll go to Char's Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet and order that Char has been a member of for 67 years. And I'll talk to her friends and see what we can come up with. And her friends had so many wonderful words for her. I asked for anecdotes and stories and adjectives, particularly because Charlotte was an English teacher in her early days. I thought that might be appropriate. And so I went over to Carondelet and I talked with friends over there. And one friend said something that really moved me. And she said that Charlotte, because of her really intense study and understanding of feminist theology, she changed the culture of the order. And I thought, oh my, that's an amazing thing. Carol Houselander, who wrote Rocking Horse Catholic, said that living nonviolently is seeing the connections in our lives and acting on them. And that's your story, Char. That's who you are. You started out at St. Stephen's and immediately you saw the plight of poor, particularly poor women, abused by the system. And you and Rita Steinhagen opened up St. Joseph's House on Portland Avenue, a home, safe home for women. And Charlotte lived up in the attic, and she had a bedroom in the attic and an office in the attic, and she used to spend time looking out the window. And she'd say to herself, I wonder what I can do to change this neighborhood, because it was filled with homes that had a lot of drug dealing going on, and they were owned mostly by absentee landlords. So, because of Charlotte's gift for writing and her connection with people, she was able to raise funds to rehab homes, and from there, she co-founded what is known as HOPE, which is Homes on Portland Enterprise. I knew Charlotte at that time because her friend, Rita Foster, said to me in 1979 when I asked, she said, yes, of course they need volunteers over there. And I called Charlotte and I went to work at St. Joseph's House. And so Charlotte saw the homes being rehabbed and filled with families. And that wasn't enough. She built what's known as the Commons. And then she realized that it needed more. So on the corner of Portland Avenue and Franklin you'll see a large apartment building and a sign that says the Hope Community Incorporated. And it means hope, but it also means Homes on Portland Enterprise, was how it began. And by doing that, she's made jobs available for people and built community, even your own words today, that the antidote to violence. She's made it possible for people to open themselves up, have an opportunity for education, and to move in their life. And you have profoundly affected the culture of the Phillips community. So also, living where you were right next door to an organization, a business, a company called Honeywell. And pretty soon, Charlotte and Marv were out once a week. Marv Davidoff were out once a week holding their sign and being a silent witness in the beginning, and just a few people, and then it grew. And each month, each year, the peace community grew. And we went not only to Honeywell, but to FMC and Alliant Tech, and have been 30 years, standing on street corners, taking it to courts, taking it to jail, and always with the idea of your life being your witness for what you believe in. So, Charlotte, you have had a profound effect. I wanted to tell you this for years, and I know it would embarrass you, but you've had a profound effect on my life. And I know that you've had a profound effect on the lives of many people in this room and many people in the peace movement. You are a witness. You have lived your life seeing the connections and acting on it in order to live a life of nonviolence. And I know that I want to speak as a voice for everyone to say thank you. And I want the blessing from all of us to you comes right from the 23rd Psalm, when I wish for you goodness and kindness to follow you all the days of your life. Thank you. This reads, Sister Charlotte Madigan. Oh, excuse me, thanks, Linda. This reads, Sister Charlotte Madigan. The Hawkinson Fund especially recognizes Sister Char's lifetime commitment to peace and justice, inspired by the example of Jesus, to show God's love to all. By founding St. Joseph's House, Hope Community, opposing war production with the Honeywell Project, etc., etc. Using experiential teaching to guide students and others in seeing and responding to their neighbors' needs. Sister Char's persistent efforts have made significant and sustained contributions to our society. Yes, you have, Sister Char, and please come forward and accept your
But first, I'm honored and grateful to be in your company, dear awardees. So young, and yet you already know the systemic causes of injustice and are committed to reforming them. And you can name people and experiences that have shaped your thinking. Reading your story strangely got me kind of wondering, what shapes human behavior and makes some people think the opposite of you, and most of us in this room? I got thinking about spirits who have shaped me, the usual, like you, family, place, faith, work. One was in the 1950s, when in college, a theater major. I learned there are only 37 original plots in the world. But I thought just 2 would do. War stories and love stories. Dominate or intimate. Control or connect. Later, hidden in plain sight, I got a cloth bag from the Guthrie Theater from my favorite writer with a quote from William Shakespeare. He says, "The past is prologue. There's no prologue indeed. God knows what shall be next. Shaping us, abiding in plain sight sometimes and sometimes hidden in our DNA. Years later, I left an image in a play that said, houses have ghosts in their attics and basements, and so do people. And then at work, we celebrated the 45th anniversary of St. Joseph's House recently, and yes, we found ghosts there. So I confess I kind of believe in ghosts, holy and un. Well, this place is surely haunted by the ghost of Vince, with whom we got arrested many times. And other ghosts from your past and from your ancestors hidden in your DNA. And ghosts attracting us all to a place like this instead of Wall Street, luring us to build welcome mats instead of walls at our boundaries. But a mixed bag, these ghosts, fighting with each other. Some prefer dominate, and some prefer intimate. And one last story about ghosts. One ghost of Paris that I love to remember is the early days of our St. Joseph's House story, as I typed out my usual begging letter. And I misspelled the the kingdom of God that we wanted to shape on our block. Instead, I typed kingdom. Perfect ghostly advice, I think. As we were trying to replace kings, lording it over women whose task was to submit, and replace it with kin and community, whole community. More, a ghost misspelled how I wrote about praying the scriptures. Instead, my fingers wrote P-R-E-Y, which us Catholics needed to do to discern who God is. As the Bible has a couple of ideas, contradictory. One is a rule-making and punishing God, a hierarchical kind of guy, who set up hell for rule breakers. And the other is like Jesus, who got hanged on a cross for crossing the rule makers, who told stories, not dogmas, who healed, not punished, who stuck with the poor, like your Vince did. So to those of Vince, I'm proud to be in your church and companion with your grace members along the path of peace and community. So, oh no, I think it's been long enough. We won't sit quietly for a couple of minutes and think about ghosts. Maybe we'll just wind up, go downstairs and talk about ghosts and about who we think God is, what God hopes for us, for our, what shapes us. Amen.
The only word I can think of, Sharon, is thank you. Thank you. Bless you. Pastor Dan this morning talked about for over 100 years in these walls, there have been stories, have been prayers, have been inspirations, have been laments. And all these stories are now part of this place. goes. And we thank each and every one of our award recipients and you, Sister Shar. On behalf of all who have gathered and the committee, a deep, deep thank you. A few final words before we go enjoy some food and fellowship. I want to remind you of Stan's invitation that the way this work continues is with our generosity. There will be a basket in back, there will be a basket downstairs. That might encourage you to reach in your billfold for a $20 bill. And every gift is appreciated. But we made an easier way for you to be more generous, and that is simply to go online and make a sizable, think about it. What we've heard today, this kind of work goes on because of the generosity of those of us who are here and our family and friends. So I strongly encourage you and thank you in advance for your generosity, your contributions. Now, immediately after we're done, we'd like to rush over to each of the individuals and congratulate them, but we want to bring them all up front to take pictures. So just resist the urge to go give them a big hug and engage in a wonderful conversation. Let them come forward. You can come forward too and take a picture along with the official photographer, but we want to record the event, and then we'll all go downstairs and enjoy the food that has been prepared. So a big thank you to Grace members, and especially Susan Wooten, a member of our congregation, for organizing the reception. So now what I want to say, go in peace, work for peace, live peace. Thank you for coming. Yeah, the winners, please come forward. The scholarship winners, along with Pastor Shar, and committee members, current committee members from Hawkinson, will invite them to be part of the picture. And any of you who want to take pictures, come on up. We want to do pictures. And you'll get in all the winners? Yeah.
Do you want all winners?
Yeah, no, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
So people already.
Sister Shar, you want to join me? Yep, we can have you come right here.
Shoot one of Scholars too.
Yeah.
I think one more time.
On three. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And then should we do one with just the scholarship winners? Thank you all.
So you're welcome to come downstairs now. You can go either by the back or out this door. Pastor Don has lots of